In this video, I'm going to tell you about painted armies and whether they're worth 10 victory points or not. It is a real rainy day today, and so there's a lot of noise from outside from the street, and it's still fez weather. So I get a lot of questions. People send me messages about all kinds of things, as I've been doing this like 7.5 years. And it's not all questions about, hey, how do I do this one thing, and how do I do this kind of thing, and how do I stay motivated, and how do I paint Tau, and just all kinds of things like that. It's also sometimes asking my opinion on stuff, which I always think is sort of interesting, because I don't know that very frequently the questions that he asks of me are things that I almost usually don't even have an opinion on. Things like the minutia of specific 40K rules, or what happened at this tournament and stuff like that. And I honestly, unfortunately, kind of don't follow everything, because I can't follow everything, But recently, I've had a couple people ask me about this new rule that is in 9th edition Warhammer 40,000. The most recent question I've got here is, what are your thoughts of the 10 plus victory points to your opponent in the new 9th edition rules if your army is not painted? Now, that's not actually technically the rule. I took a picture of the rule, which I also have here on my phone. It's on page 283 in the big old book. Each player can score a maximum of 45 points from primary objectives and a maximum of 45 victory points from secondary objectives, from a maximum of 15 victory points from each of the 3 secondary objectives you have selected, for a total of 90 possible victory points from mission objectives. Any excess victory points awarded are discounted. If every model in a player's army, here comes the important part, was painted to a battle-ready standard, that player is awarded a bonus 10 victory points. This gives the player a maximum total score of 100 victory points. So it's not that if my army's not painted, you get points. It's that if your army is painted, you get points. And if my army is painted, then I get points. And then it kind of is a wash. But the overall question really is about, is it fair that Games Workshop, in all of their evil meanness, has decided to make this rule so the people who aren't painting their miniatures, aren't going to be able to win tournaments? And, that's not really how tabletop games work. If you are playing with your friends at your local club, at your local friend's house, at your local store, one of those things. Once we can actually kind of really do that stuff again safely, I might add. Or if you're playing with, you've got a big family and 3 of you have, full-blown 2,000-point Warhammer armies, and you're going to keep playing in the house, and it's totally safe because you never leave otherwise to go get groceries or whatever. Great. But you don't have to follow this rule if you don't want to, just like pretty much every other rule in tabletop gaming. I did a video about this not that long ago, about, you don't have to follow every rule. You can tweak rules, you can change rules. There were people when Age of Sigmar first came out that said, I'm not going to play this roll dice every turn to see who, what the turn order is. We're going to do it the old way, where you did it once at the beginning of the game and it never changed the rest of the game like God intended or whatever. And that's fine. You can do that. Now, obviously, if you're going to go play at a tournament, then it becomes the tournament organizer's rules. And tournament organizers also, by the way, don't have to follow rules either if they don't want to. A tournament organizer could totally look at this rule on page 283 in the big book and just be like, yeah, we're not going to do that, because they know their audience, or because they don't want to get into fights. They don't want to have problems. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of reasons why this isn't something to get real uptight about, because it's something they put in there. And again, rules are made to be broken. You don't have to do this amongst your friends. If your local store makes a ruling and says, nope, if it's unpainted, you don't get your 10 points or whatever, okay, well, that's what you have when you go to play at that store. Now, at this point, you need to either make a decision about deciding to get your stuff painted or to not go play at that store. But these are all choices that either the store owners, the club elders, the tournament organizers, or you and your friends get to make. Just because it's put in the book doesn't make it gospel. Now, that all being said, I personally think it's a good idea. Now, again, and I'm coming from a place where I'm not really particularly playing 40K these days. The new 9th editions come out. I obviously haven't had a chance to play it because, the cats will not play 40K with me, and my wife is not interested in it either. She's interested in Warcry, but not 40K. So the thing is that I've not been able to play it. I don't see myself probably playing it. After looking at the rules and doing all that kind of stuff, I was thinking maybe Combat Patrol, maybe Crusade. Those are big maybes at this point. That all being said, because of the way that I am, I don't have to worry about this 10 points thing because I like to have my stuff painted. It's just the way it works. And so the thing is that the reason they're doing this, a couple of reasons. One is because I think more and more people appreciate a well-painted army, or even a mostly well-painted army. They're referring to this as battle ready, which if you look in the instruction booklets and stuff like that, they're talking about battle ready these days, which some people will refer to kind of as 3 colors up. And then there's also parade ready, which is, quite a bit fancier as far as Games Workshop is concerned. And they've been doing even tutorials where they talk about making something battle ready, making something parade ready. And so they're putting this terminology in there to basically help people who are getting new to the hobby and thinking, well, how much do I need to paint to be able to do this? And how much do you think it needs to happen that I have to have all of this stuff? If I got one guy who doesn't have the holster on his pistol painted, I'm going to lose 10 points. You know what I mean? And so I got to say, like I said, I like it because I love to play any tabletop war game with fully painted army, fully painted terrain. I like my opponent to do the same. It just brings everything together. It's just a great look. Now, you may not feel the same way. You may prefer that you play against a person who has all of their ducks in a row strategically, and they all know absolutely all the rules perfectly, and they're really, really trying to give you a great, very, very strategically challenging game. You are not going to want to play against me, because I want pretty things on the table, and I want to have a good time, and I'm not necessarily going to play, right, competitively, possibly even fully following the rules, as you've seen earlier in this video. So you have this social contract that goes on amongst the people that you play with, and this is just another thing that GW can kind of throw in there and say, look, here you go. But again, like I said, it doesn't have to be something that you have to do. Every once in a great while, if you're playing some sort of first-person shooter game on the video consoles or computer or whatever, you will come across a session. You'll launch into a game server, and you will find that everybody there is playing knives only. Now, what does that mean? Well, in most of these games, they're first-person shooters. That's what the S stands for, and they have guns and all that kind of stuff. And the people will be playing, and they will decide just amongst themselves in the chat or whatever, hey, let's all just play knives only. It'll be fun. So it'll just be everyone running around just trying to stab each other. No sniper guns, no grenade launchers. It's just, stab, stab, stab. And that's something that, again, is a social contract, because at any point, some dude could just whip around with a grenade launcher and blow up like 5 people. That's and there's nothing to stop them from doing that other than social contract. Now, they cannot fire off a grenade launcher that blows up everybody on the map because of the rules of the program, the rules of the computer game, the video game. That's what makes video games, in my opinion, not as much fun sometimes as tabletop games, because in tabletop games, you can change the rules as much as you want, as long as the two of you are totally on board, as opposed to just saying, let's only just use pistols in this game of 40K. You could do that and then follow all the rest of the rules, but you could also say, but pistols have a range of 25 now, or whatever. You can do all kinds of things and tweak things very simply as long as the both of you agree. You can change video games. There are mods, I know, but it's harder to do, and just it's a lot different than just across the table go, well, what do you think? Should we do it this way? I mean, that's a lot easier. So, Uncle Adam, what does that have to do with 10 points for painted models, you're asking? I can hear it. The Fez doesn't block the ears. And, well, it doesn't have a lot to do with it, but it kind of talks a little bit about, again, social contract. And I personally like this concept of the rules. That being said, I frankly don't expect, for the most part, anyone to ever actually follow it. Again, it's up to the tournament organizer. The bigger the tournament, the more likely you are probably going to follow that to some degree. That being said, I could also see a lot of tournament organizers tired of the pushback and the complaints. So I could see a lot of tournament organizers deciding to skip that rule, because the people who are going to the big tournaments very frequently are very, very, very concerned about the points and the winning and all that kind of stuff, and it's competitive, and I get that. And if they don't have every last piece of their army painted, they're going to lose 10 points potentially, and that's not going to sit well. And so I understand that. That being said, again, I think it's a cool idea, but I'm not a tournament organizer, nor even a tournament player. I like the concept of Games Workshop trying to get more people to paint their models, because it makes the overall game more immersive and more interesting, both visually and in very many situations also more interesting because of the story that you might put behind why you painted these particular folks in this fashion, that kind of thing. So I like them making the steps, and I agree with it. I don't know that a lot of other people necessarily do, and because of the way that the social contract works within tabletop games, you don't have to follow these rules unless the tournament organizer or maybe the store owner or whatever says you do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you and your opponent and what you both think in this situation. What rules, whether it's painting, whether it's ranges, whether it's turn order, whatever, what rules you want to follow. So don't worry too much when Games Workshop comes out and says things like this, puts it even in the book. It's set in paper, but it's not set in stone. So what do you think when we actually get to start having like a lot of conventions and tournaments and things like that again? Do you think the tournament organizers in your area are going to be following this rule, or are they going to not want to kind of take the heat and decide to not really follow that rule? What goes on in your local store or local club? Let me know in the comments below, because honestly, like I said, I'm not a tournament player. I attend tournaments from time to time, and I pay attention to that stuff to some degree, but not to the degree of the people who are actually in those things playing them. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think it's fair. If you think that, a tournament organizer said, yep, absolutely, it's in the book, we're going to do it this way. Does that leave you out of the lurch? Getting things painted, in many ways, in my opinion, is part of the hobby. But there are also plenty of people out there who don't really care about the paint. They just care about the actual strategy and the tournament and the actual play. But they still want to be doing it on tabletop and not on a video game. So it's kind of an odd place that we've all to some degree been put with this rule, but I don't know. Let me tell me your opinion down below in the comments, and we'll find out more, and maybe we'll see more as the year and the next year progresses.